how important is the viewer experience, and how do you ensure that that's always like at the forefront of what you are doing?
I mean, that's everything to us and to me for my job. Sports at the end of the day is like watching a movie. It's like you really got to make sure you're tailoring everything to your audience and to fans. I think hockey is especially interesting just because with hockey, it's such an intimate arena. And as a crowd member, you go there and you really just feel like you're a part of it more than I feel like any other sport. You know, at Climate Pledge specifically, it's like the lighting and everything. It's just so immersive as a fan. And so we really try to make sure, like, when you're going to a Seattle Kraken game, like you're going to want to remember that experience and going to want to come to more. So NIL it stands for name, image, likeness, and it was established for college athletes to kind of capitalize off of the brand. I always say, I'm like, how did athletes go so long without being paid for their position in sports? And it's not to say that they're being paid for how well they're doing, but just they've established an audience for themselves and they have fans. So how would they? It's like they're being robbed all these years of potential profit.
If you have been watching the podcast for a while now, you'll have seen me wear these primitive athletic tops. They are now available, and I'm really excited because I work out in them a lot. I tend to work out quite hard, but I also like to be comfortable. So that's why when I was picking out the materials for this top, I went with a pure cotton. If you would like to get yourself a top and support the channel, they are available on my website, primitiveathletics.com. Athletics with an X. Hello and welcome back to PA Chocka. Today we've got Laila. How are you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm good. So if you just let us know who you are and what you do and how you got here.
Beautiful. All right. So yeah, I'm Laila. I'm from the Bay Area in California originally, and I came up here to Seattle to go to school at the University of Washington. And I'm a senior about to graduate. So I have one more quarter to go. And I want to go into the sports industry. That's what I'm currently pursuing. And I'm still kind of navigating what that really looks like for me. Right now, I work as a marketing intern for UW Athletics. I'm an entertainment assistant for the Seattle Kraken, and I run the social media for Washington's NIL Store. And yeah, it's been really fun kind of figuring out where my place is in the sports industry. But I've gotten, have some experience and I'm getting there slowly, figuring it out.
That's sick. What's the differences between each role?
Yeah, so within UW Athletics in my marketing position, I'm an intern, so I'm with, a whole team of other interns, and we work every single type of sport offered at UW, from, tennis to basketball to, UW football. Go Dogs. And so, yeah, we just have like a couple games that were all scheduled. Oh, yeah, there you go. Go Dogs. So that's been really fun. That was like my first kind of introductory into anything sports related. I played football in high school as the only girl on my team. And I came to UW thinking I wanted to pursue business and was kind of, unfortunately weeded out by the classes that they say will weed you out. But luckily, one of my best friends, Samaya, she introduced me to this program with UW Athletics. And I owe a lot to her that, kind of got me introduced to the sports world. And now I'm, still with marketing. And yeah, it's been nice. It's a fun experience for sure.
Yeah, what's it like making it in a football team, being sort of the opposite gender to what it's sort of catered for?
Yeah. Oh, I can talk about football forever. So I'll give just a front to back what happened with my short but super fun football
It's an
career.
amazing story. I loved it.
So for 8 years growing up, I played soccer. And I was always kind of the girl that wanted to do the corner kicks, or I was, chosen by my team to do the corner kicks because I could just without fail boot the ball. That was like my one. I wasn't really good at anything else in soccer other than I could just kick the ball far. And so I quit soccer in 8th grade just to pursue dance full time. And so I was a competitive dancer for many years, and then I did it in high school as well. And then my junior year of high school, I was talking with two of my friends that were on the football team, and we had just come off a state championship win. So, Menlo Atherton football was all anyone was talking about. And I just kind of like threw it out there to my friends as a joke, just to like get a couple laughs. And I was like, oh, like, what if I was a kicker on the team? And I like, went home that day and I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I said something like I might actually, be serious about. Um, and she was like, you know what? Like immediately was supportive. She was like, you know what? Like if you can do this, like you did soccer, you have the skill, you like just transition what you have from soccer into football. Like it can't be that different. It's just the difference of a ball. And you got a field goal in front of you. And so she bought me a football, bought me a kicking tee. I didn't even know if I was allowed to play yet from, my school or the conference or anything. But we went to Pali, which was MA, my school's rival high school nearby. And I didn't even want to be seen. Like I was gatekeeping by I did not want anyone to know I was doing this, which is like really funny of me. I don't know why I did that, but I was like, I'm just going to be secretive and like figure out if I even can do this. So we went out in the dark at my rival high school, and I just booted the ball, like just would go there every single day after school, wait till it was dark, and just kind of like get reps in. And once I had, some film I could show my coaches, I went up to him and I was just like, hey, like I want to be a part of the football team. I know we haven't done this before and nearby schools haven't done this. And I just, kind of proposed that to him. And he told me, as long as you're willing to work as hard as the guys, I don't have a problem with it. And I was like, say less. Like, okay, cool. Like, that's all I really wanted to hear. I just wanted that validation. Like, okay, you can do this. You just have to work hard. And I had been working hard weeks before. So it wasn't like I was ready for the grind. And so, yeah, I joined winter workouts God, what year would that have been? 2019, January. Started with like strength and conditioning practices, which were extremely humbling. Just coming from like a dancer's stamina to football, like I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. But my coaches whipped me into shape. My team was so initially supportive, which I thank them so much for. Like they had every right to be like, why is a girl on my team? Like that it's a totally new and foreign thing to them. So I really wouldn't have blamed them if they weren't as accepting. But luckily they just like took me in as a sister, and it was immediately like I felt that team bond that you hear about like as a kind of brotherly football team. And then I went to go. How would you say this? There was a guy on the team before me, and I had to kind of fight him for that starting spot as a PAT kicker. And so I won in that little challenge, which was really fun. So I won the starting spot, joined my high school football team for my senior season, and played with a lot of great players that have now gone on to different schools. We have, Troy Franklin at Oregon, Jeremiah Irby at Cal, Skylar Thomas at Oregon State. It was the time of my life. I peaked in high school, as I like to say.
And I thought it's stop doing that.
It's true though. I was on top of the world. Like everything was just so much fun. It was great.
What was it like taking that first kick and getting over the post?
Oh gosh. I just remember being a big bundle of nerves my first game. I was so nervous. But honestly, it was incredible. My teammates were so proud of me. They hyped me up. They were banging on my helmet, just so proud of me. So it was nice to have that support. Otherwise, I don't think I could have done it as easily. It was a great feeling. We even played in Levi's Stadium for one of our games. So getting to be in the 49ers Stadium, which is my home team, was awesome. And I can say I was the only girl to score a point in Levi's Stadium, which is pretty cool.
That is sick.
Yeah, it's a fun little
brag. Yeah. So how does that not sort of transpire into what you do now?
Yeah. I feel like sports for a lot of people is a hobby, or it's, for entertainment. And I slowly started to realize, I want to make this something that I can make my career and pursue full time. I am just so passionate about sports. I was joking earlier, we always have some kind
Yeah.
of sports game on our television. Like sports for my roommate and I,
Apart
Samaya,
from baseball.
except for baseball. I mean, I can watch a baseball game. I'm just not the biggest fan. I grew up with the Giants, which were great when I was a kid. So they went to the World Series like 5,000 times, which, I should be more of a baseball fan then. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to make sports something that I could pursue full time. And, as much as I love to have an array of game day snacks on my table and watch it on the TV, it's just so much more fun to experience, kind of the behind the scenes of everything that goes on in the production of the game.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what's it like at the Krakens and behind the scenes with everything that you do?
Yeah, so at the Kraken, I am an entertainment assistant. So I'm helping produce most of those kind of in game elements that you see as a fan. Everything between, contestant games, figuring out different media timeouts. Um, and so, on a game day, for example, I work all the home game days. We get there at 1 p.m. for a 7 p.m. tip off.
Hmm.
Is that what you would call it in hockey?
Puck off?
Puck
Is it
off.
puck
You should probably know that. The 7 p.m. start game time. We're there at 1 p.m. and we'll like go through a script review. And that's going to be including everyone that's on the production team. That's going to be lighting people, audio people, graphic people. We're all in this same meeting just to go through the entire run of the show. And then we'll kind of break up into our separate departments and we'll go through our own, again, another script review.
off?
Just kind of delegating different tasks to different people and just kind of seeing where each of us need to be to make a successful show. Then we'll go into rehearsals. So I'll give you a good example of this. Yesterday we had a Seattle Kraken game and we did these big blow up balls, the ones that people can go into and hit each other
Oh
with.
yeah.
And we just, as we're like guinea pigs. So we're trying to see like how the game is going to work for the fans and if, there's any additional things we can add to it to make it better. And so Fireball had sponsored this one. So we, had the Fireball sweaters on, going out there, hitting each other with these balls, just trying to see like what it's going to be like for fans. So yeah, we'll have those rehearsals. Then we'll meet with the C Squad, for which the Seattle Kraken is kind of like a little hype crew that help with a
Mm.
lot of the contestant games as well. And we'll go through another script review with them. And then it's game time. And then it's just kind of running around trying to get to where you need to be, making sure our hosts are okay. We got a live camera, we got a mic. Constant. It's pretty constant game day.
Mm.
But, there's always time to have fun and enjoy the sport, which is why I love working in sports so much.
Yeah. How important is the viewer experience, and how do you ensure that that's always like at the forefront of what you are doing?
Yeah, good question. I mean, that's everything to us and to me for my job. Sports at the end of the day is like watching a movie. It's like you really got to make sure you're tailoring everything to your audience and to fans. I think hockey is especially interesting just because with hockey, it's such an intimate arena. And
Mm.
as a crowd member, you go there and you really just feel like you're a part of it more than I feel like any other sport. At Climate Pledge specifically, it's like the lighting and everything. It's just so immersive as a fan. And so we really try to make sure, like when you're going to a Seattle Kraken game, like you're going to want to remember that experience and going to want to come to more. And so everything we do is, especially on the production and entertainment side of things, is to have entertaining games and make sure fans are having the best experience possible when they come in.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about what you do to get that best viewer experience?
Ooh, my favorite part. I would say my favorite part is the games and getting fun contestants. I don't know. I there's everything. I can't say many bad things about working in sports. I've like had very minimal bad experiences. I have fun at my work every single day. Like it's honestly, um,
I think
yeah.
that comes across when like you're speaking about it though, because like there's people that just come into this industry thinking it's gonna be fun, it's gonna be fun, but they don't actually apply themselves
Mm,
to what they do and put across themselves in it. Which
Yeah.
like kind of speaking to you off camera, like you showed that you were like you're walking in and every day is like just a blast for you.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. There are the days where everything can go downhill very quickly. Like there's technical issues that can happen that make you have to rewrite an entire script. And although it can be very stressful and it's a very timely, you have to have all your ducks in a row when working in sports. Um, it for me, sports is so much fun and like such a big piece of my heart to me that I'll take those chaotic moments any day, like for getting to experience what I do in my career, which is
Yeah.
nice.
What's the script writing process like for you?
I'm not too much on the script writing side. That has to do everything with like our sponsorships that we get, where we have to have certain elements of we have a contract with this company. Where do they want their game? Do they want it in the first time out, second time out? And then
Mm,
it's just kind of up to delegating. Who's available to do what task when people are on opposite sides of the arena doing something else.
yeah. So how does that differ between UW and your role there?
Yes, with UW, I guess I have had more experience writing scripts at UW, but it's same kind of process. It starts with kind of brainstorming what we want. Again, fans to want to experience. A lot of it with marketing has to do with giveaways, um, and that's like the first thing fans see when they come into the game. We've got a marketing table set up, ready with posters, ready with maybe rally towels, whatever it is that game. Um, and yeah, we'll just make sure they have a good time. For good first impression is always what we want with
Yeah.
marketing. Yeah.
What's it like sort of bouncing between those two and what does your schedule look like?
My schedule is pretty crazy looking. Um, I have 6 jobs total, and I like to keep myself very busy. It's nice because they're all very part time. So, with UW, I'm only really working certain game days for certain sports. I only probably have like 5 soccer games a quarter, 5 basketball games, and then we work every football game, and like a couple sports sprinkled out in there. Kraken, I just work every home game, which some days I can, or some weeks that can be like 4 games a week, and some weeks we don't have any games. So it's just a pretty constant up and down schedule. It's busy. It's a little
Yeah.
chaotic, but it works for me, which is nice.
What's the other roles that you have?
Yes, so I have the UW, I have Kraken. I run the social media for the Washington NIL Store, which just launched actually probably about 3 weeks ago. It's part of the larger organization Campus Inc., and they make customized apparel for different clubs. In this case, it's for different athletes at UW. So yeah, my job is to run the social media. I have to post once a day on Instagram and Twitter, which has been a lot more challenging than I had anticipated. But I don't have a ton of like graphic design experience. Although media is something I would love to pursue, it's got a big learning curve. So I'm still kind of
Mm,
in the process of figuring out like what makes like a good social media post and how I can use like my marketing experience with UW to help push athletes' profiles and their apparel
mm,
and like recruiting athletes to want to be a part of it as well.
yeah.
Uh,
How do you manage sort of class times and these different roles that you have?
yeah, I still want to make school a priority, obviously. So I'll luckily I'm only taking about 14 credits right now, and then one of my classes is online, so it's not too bad. Um, I do try to not fall into the habit of wanting to pursue my jobs more than school. Just 'cause, once again, it goes back to I have so much fun at my work. Why I'm already like just thinking about post grad.
Mm.
But focusing on school now, going to class more often than not. Doing my best. Yeah.
No, that's dope. Um, so with sort of your role with the Krakens and how you like take the viewer experience like a top priority, what some of the like I'm guessing psychological factors that you look at when you are trying to make this experience?
Hmm. Do you mean for like certain in-game
Hmm.
elements, or kind of like what makes a fan a good contestant, kind of like what we're looking for?
I'd love to hear about both.
Okay.
That's a good point though.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, whenever we have a game, we're looking for a spirited fan. We want someone that's going to be, whether they're coming on ice, they're in Seattle gear, they're decked out, they have the squid hat, they're ready to go. We want someone that's like fired up, especially for like we call them Zorbs, these big blow up balls that people
Hmm.
go up in. We wanted someone that would go crazy, go ham on the ice, and like fly backwards. Which, if you go on Twitter right now, you'll probably see the game we had last night, which is gaining a lot of traction on Twitter because it was quite entertaining. They went full head to head, flew backwards, and people were saying it was the best halftime, or I guess mid between period. What did we
Hmm.
call it? Intermission. The intermission games we've ever had, and is my personal favorite. But that was really due to finding. We saw a lot of people. We waited in the arena for a lot of people to come in, and we're hunting around for like just trying to find the right person. And luckily, we found three of them, which was great.
I'm trying to find them.
Yeah, I think yeah. Search someone found a screenshot of it yesterday. It had they just posted it and had like 200 likes on Twitter.
Nice.
But
What's the best part of sort of like bouncing between these roles for you?
I mean, just every day every day, every game is a new day. Like it's just constant. Everything, everything. It's new. There's a new script every game. We've got new games for contestants every new game. It's exciting. It's an exciting place to be.
Yeah. No, that's dope. And I think like because and we were sort of talking about this before, it's like majority of what we do, obviously we do it because we love it, but like the fans that support what we're
Hmm.
doing as well is like the biggest part about sort of the community that's built around it. What's some of like the most rewarding moments that you've seen?
The most what? Sorry.
Rewarding, sorry.
Reward. Oh, great question. Let me think about that because I really do want a good answer. I mean, every single game I'm impressed with what we're able to put on. Have you seen the new LED lights in the stadium?
I think I have actually because they made a big post in there.
One of my favorite moments this season was our first night game. And that was the first time we were able to kind of unveil our new LED lights, which were fully tailored for fan experience. We see all those like other Big Ten schools with these crazy stadiums and crazy light intros and everything. And so Washington finally leveled up, got those lights, and we had that intro video go for our football game with the lights, coordinated with it. And you could just tell the fans loved it. It just made the whole experience 30 times more immersive. Yeah, there you go. And it's connected with the audio, it's connected with the video, so it just feels like you're in this movie, and it's game day. I love the LED lights.
Yeah,
I'm
I
glad we
think
got.
it does make like especially with the sirens that go off like every touchdown, like
Yep.
that immersion feeling that you must get from it.
Yeah. It's nice to see where now knowing what I know working in sports, it's like I feel like I can never go to another sports game without thinking about all the behind the scenes that they're doing. It's like we always joke about that. We're like, just can't rest. Like we just want to know like where are the live cameras? We're just thinking about all those different behind the scenes things. And so yeah, seeing at a UW game, I'm like, oh, I know one of my interns is over there with our special guest sounding the siren, or they're putting off the purple smoke and doing the flags, all of those things. It's like, oh, I can see where those are all coordinated with different people now. So
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how many like screens and TVs there are around the stadium as well.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Seeing the Kraken control room is crazy. They don't even see the ice. They are
Mm.
in a room during games, and there's just 30,000 screens with a million different things going on. And I'm just like, I'm glad you guys can understand this because I surely can't.
No, the thing with that, the biggest thing that surprised me is during the 4th of July, UW does this workout, which is Red, White, and Boom. And like that's when I truly realized that how many elements go into like the stadium, and like
Hmm.
you just see like American. Well, I just saw American flags all the way around, and like red, white, and boom, and just like everything was tailored to that special event. And it's like it's how quickly these guys can turn around and make these changes.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, when it's a football game day at 12:30, we were there at 6. Or, for Oregon college game day, Oregon college game day was the best day of my entire life. And it was also the longest. I was up for 26 hours that day. I
Damn.
Yeah, I went to bed at 11:30 and I got up at 12:30 and I had to be at work at 2. 2 in the morning I had to be at work and we went to
Um,
Red Square. Um, and yeah, we had the full game day and I was wanted to celebrate our win obviously, so I ended up going to bed at probably like 3 and I was just the longest day of my life.
damn.
But it was the best day ever. Would do it a million more times.
Yeah. So what's that experience like when and watching one of the biggest rival games that you'd have play?
Well, it's tricky for me because my former teammate was, is Troy Franklin, who's a wide receiver on Oregon. So I have a little bit of a soft spot, a little bit, like just a smidge, for Oregon, and I know their team very well. So as a viewer, I'm obviously rooting for Washington. Obviously, don't get that one
Mm.
twisted. Just it's nice to see people do well.
Yeah.
Um, that game specifically, though, was, I mean, seeing it from the 6 a.m. broadcast for college game day, there were fans lined up. When I got
Mhm.
there was probably 300 fans
Ah,
lined up at 2 a.m. People stayed out at like 9 p.m. from the night before. And everyone was just so pumped. I've never experienced energy like that from fans. And I mean, it just felt so, everyone was so together rooting for one thing. So it was just really nice to, help be a part of that. We were there at 2 a.m. giving away beanies and signs, and everyone just loved it. Everyone had so much energy at 2 a.m. You never see that. So it was just so cool. I missed that game. That was so cool.
that's something that I unfortunately never got to experience was that college football day. Like
Yeah,
I left just before they started.
it's the best.
But like I think like watching some of the clips from like people that I know there and some of the coaches, I'm just like that just sounds intense, and it's like it's no wonder that it's the best setting in college football.
Football, yes, it's true. I will stand behind that till the day I die. Game days at Husky Stadium are unmatched. They're perfect.
Yeah. How what's that process like of making like this experience so immersive for the fans?
I mean, it's just really it's pretty easy in sports because as you know, I work in sports, but I can also attest to what it's like to go to games and being a fan. So it's really just getting in your own head and figuring out what would you want to see, going to
Mm,
this game. So in that way, it makes it pretty easy because you're kind of your own demographic, which makes things a little bit more simple. And then you can just throw in fun elements of different, pulling from different resources in different departments, and then it all just comes together.
yeah. No, that's amazing. Because like you were talking about earlier before we started recording, that like at the Krakens, the atmosphere of the games and how everything's laid out is so like immersive.
Yeah.
What's the sort of how have you found that it works?
You mean
Like how do you think that makes it so immersive? Like what is it about it that makes it so immersive?
Kraken specifically? Yeah. I've been really impressed with how, I mean, the fan engagement with the Kraken. When I was interviewing for the Kraken position that I have now, this is what I talked about, and I think it's probably in large why I got the role. But just because I would go to hockey games growing up, and even as a kid who doesn't have a very long attention span, I could go to a hockey game and immediately be enthralled with the lighting, the mascot is running around the arena. You can see the mascot from across the arena, and it just feels compared to like a open stadium football game, when you're
Mm,
in that enclosed arena with hockey, it's pretty hard not to you can't take your eyes off the ice, or at least with the different in-game elements that are happening, at least with like event production. It's yeah, I just really love hockey for that reason. You can't kind of escape your own experience as soon as you walk into the arena.
yeah. While you're going through sort of every checklist that you do, what's like the biggest priorities that you have?
Hmm. A lot of it, so a lot of our setup, I think, is important because it all happens pregame, and we want to make sure, going back to when fans walk in, they have like an immediate impression of what that game is going to be like. So making sure as soon as when fans walk in, our job is essentially done for like an hour. When gates open, we should be chilling for like an hour because everything is set up for them to like immediately enjoy. Um, so yeah, just making sure they have a fun first impression.
Yeah. So what's that process like between sort of they're not in the stadium yet and you're just like setting up and processing everything?
Yeah. A lot of it is physical labor, which is another part of working in sports. Yeah, we're moving things around all the different levels, getting giveaways ready,
What sort of
getting.
giveaways is like the main giveaway?
Ooh, well, at Kraken, it's different every game. Sometimes there's not going to be a giveaway, which it's a bummer if you go to a Kraken game on those days. We've had a couple bobbleheads given out. We've had posters, rally towels. For UW, it's a lot of our branded gear between like Pepsi and Adidas. So we had, the Pepsi bucket hats. We actually had a misprint in our big posters. And so we got these like huge movie sized posters. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're what is it, like 3 by 4, like
Um,
these huge posters. They were meant to be like just these tiny little things, and we got like hundreds of these these posters. And so we had those out, which actually kind of turned into a blessing because people were like, "Yeah, I want to hang this in my house. Like this is a dope movie poster. It's like got Mike Penix on it. It's got all the guys." So
big shout out
um,
to Mike.
a big shout out to Mike. Yeah.
He's one of the sweetest people I've ever met.
Oh, he's a
Like
gem. He's a gem.
he's he just like keeps to himself all the time. It's amazing. Like you'd think like I was there like just chilling with those guys. It was like first of all, like I'm not as tall as them. So
Hmm.
like most of my time I like spent coaching like this because they're
Right.
massive. But like
Yeah.
it was just like how nice and like down to earth like they were. I was like kind of surprised. I was like because the UK doesn't exactly have football teams like that. So like
Yeah.
when I went across, I was like, damn.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like to stereotype athletes into this certain mold of, they're going to be these cocky, just kind of like stereotypical, like you're not as good as me, like these, these egos. Which, sure, there are people like that, but there's people like that in every industry. And I've been really impressed with the UW culture of athletes here.
Mm,
I think it's a great group of athletes. They're very down to earth, very humble, and they have every right not to be.
hmm
We're have a great program here. So it's nice to know that the morals are still in check.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I kind of know the back end of how they sort of operate,
Hmm.
like more in the summer, but like they have a great coaching staff, and
Yes.
I owe a lot of what I'm doing now because of them, and
Right.
like just like Coach Matt, Coach DeBoer, like the way that they run their ship is just like it's next to none. Like the way that they hold each athlete accountable for what they do
Mhm.
is like one of the best things I've ever seen in my athletic career as well.
Oh, absolutely. We say all the time how impressed we are with Coach DeBoer and his staff. They've just made UW football into a fantastic program. It's
Yeah,
very, very nice to see.
which is like one of the biggest things. So like, I got to spend a lot one to one with the athletes, and I had a conversation with Luciano, and me and him were. I was like, what's the difference between last season, which was before the board joined, and this
Right.
season? And he was like, well, we're. I think they had only won 2 or 4 games the season
Mhm.
before, and
Yeah.
like he was like, I mean, I'm enjoying coming in, and I was like, fair.
Yeah, no, it's a great atmosphere when you're winning, but it also attests to how well their coaching staff works for our team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the staff like at your side of the production?
Oh, well, at UW, we have a great team. I love my marketing team. We're just working such long hours together that you're just kind of forced to all like you have those bonding moments, especially in the chaotic and stressful times. You're forced to kind of see each other's bad sides. You're like, well, we've got to work together regardless. So it's we've got a good little team in marketing.
Yeah. What's the different roles that sort of get divided between everyone?
Mm. Um, all right, so with UW, I've got, I guess they would be considered like marketing directors, and that's like your boss man up here, and then you got marketing assistants. Um, then you have assistants to those assistants, and then you have our team of interns. That's what I would be. So it's just kind of a big chain of like leadership, and we all kind of delegate. I get my all of the interns get our assignments from the marketing assistants, for, more or less, and they'll kind of meet as a team on their side of things and figuring out who we can trust with certain responsibilities, who's done things before, who's comfortable. Like for example, those big towers that shoot smoke. I can't do those. I don't know what it is. I get like I had to do it once in a basketball game and I almost had a panic attack. I don't know what it's just like it's one little remote and you have to press like three buttons and it just shoots. But I couldn't. I was so scared. I was like, what if I do it early? All those like little technical things. And so they know not to put me on anything with the smoke machines. And I
Yeah.
because I just can't do it. But for example, one of the responsibilities I always get is going and getting like our special guests. So, I've brought Isaiah Thomas. I'm often bringing our university's president down
Mm.
from Connie Bear. So I'm more often than not trusted with, kind of those communication interpersonal roles.
Who's
That's
who's like the most shocked that you've been with speaking against someone?
For some reason I really haven't been to like maybe it's just because I'm in the back of my head I'm like oh keep it cool like be professional, this is not your moment to like
Mm.
have a fangirl moment. I don't know, my mom worked as a personal assistant to several different little famous people, and I think hearing from her backside of things, I know how to operate in those
Mm.
kind of like situations. Isaiah Thomas was a really cool one that would happen my first year as a marketing intern. And I went and got him because his car broke down in the parking lot, or his car
Wow.
broke down on the way to the game, and he was the one sounding the siren. So we were like, oh shoot, like he's supposed to be here when the team runs out. His car breaks down. He Ubers to the game. um, I'm as an intern trusted with going and getting him from the parking lot, and I'm like, oh wow, well this is like because it wasn't supposed to be me; it was supposed to be my boss that went and got him. But they trusted me with it, and I went and got him out of the parking lot with his family and brought him in the field, which was a crazy experience. wasn't wasn't ready for that one, but it was cool. And he's also another one that's just a fantastic guy.
Yeah. Fair. How so you've kind of mentioned that like because you've been in sport all your life and you kind of know what you would like to have as an experience. What kind of things that when you were growing up in sport made you realize that like viewer experience and all these little factors are important?
I think it's just because I could go home from every game with like a new set of memories that would stay with me for
Mm.
so long. I mean, I remember like my childhood game days so well. Like my grandpa had season tickets to the Sharks games as a kid, and I would go with him, and it would just be the two of us. Um, and I remember, like the Simba live cams, like we do that today, we did that yesterday at the Kraken. So it's like just we have these consistent fan experiences that even as a kid I remember today, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just a cute like family memory to look back on.
Mm.
So many different families can say that, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's sick. You've also mentioned like the podcast that you're thinking about doing. Do you want to
Hmm.
talk that about that a little bit? Because it's a sick idea.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so my roommate and I are both obviously former athletes, and we just kind of thought through what we've learned in our experience. we want to kind of create a platform to kind of go behind the scenes of other athletes and tell their stories, just kind of showcasing who they are outside of their sport. So we'd basically just want to have, an athlete or a couple athletes on in like a video podcast and kind of open up a space for them to just share some dialogue on, who they are, outside of, what they play, and kind of sharing what their brand is.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned that like some players and athletes kind of struggle with that being known as this athlete and then transitioning. What was that experience for like for you?
You mean as an athlete for me or
Mm,
my?
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
as an athlete for you.
Honestly, coming out of high school, I didn't really expect to pursue football, obviously collegiately, although that would have been really cool. But that wasn't really in my head. So that's kind of where I found my brand going into sports. I transitioned from being an athlete to wanting to work on the behind the scenes part of it. Um, right now, I'm taking a class.
We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're back. We were talking about the sort of athlete experience after sort of playing and going into these roles, and you were going into a little bit of the NIL.
Right. Yeah. So football was my whole life in high school, and I didn't really intend to pursue it collegiately, although that would have been a really cool experience. So coming into college, I wanted to find, how I could take my experience as an athlete and apply it to my career, which, has led me to working in sports. I've, looked a little into what NIL life is like as I kind of try to see where I want to end up, professionally. I'm really interested on the NIL branding side of it. I'm taking a class right now at UW called Marketing 315, and it essentially just goes into everything regarding what it's like as an establishing your brand as an athlete, in the NIL space. And, kind of going back to the podcast that, my roommate Smaya and I want to start. We're just really wanting to give a platform for athletes to think about their brand outside of their sport. And I think it's really difficult when, as an athlete, kind of like how I felt in high school, how they could potentially feel in college when, what you've devoted yourself to for all these years suddenly goes away. And, how can you still kind of capitalize off the brand you built for yourself in college, and kind of seeing, what that looks like.
100%. Can you explain what NIL means and sort of what it does?
Yeah, so NIL, it stands for name, image, likeness, and it was established for college athletes to kind of capitalize off of the brand. I always say, I'm like, how did athletes go so long without being paid for their position in sports? And it's not to say that they're being paid for how well they're doing, but just they've established an audience for themselves and they have fans. So how would they? It's like they're being robbed all these years of
Mm,
potential profit.
yeah, that's a very good point because it's just came into life recent that athletes are actually getting paid for what they're doing. What's that sort of change been like seeing that firsthand?
Yeah, I mean, it's been super interesting to see and learn about in my class. I, I feel like this is like what exactly I've been learning about in my marketing 315 class. So if my professor sees this and I misspeak, then I hope she doesn't come for me. But yeah, it's just created a whole new different avenue for athletes to kind of think about. I mean, at UW we have like the Washington NIL Store, for example, and that's a really easy opportunity for athletes, honestly, because any athlete at UW can join it, no matter what team, no matter how well you're doing. You can have your name and number on a customized piece of apparel, and they receive a certain percentage of the profit. But I think it's also a really interesting in the creative sense.
Mm,
I love, kind of going back to I just love media and seeing how like the different photo and video production in the NIL space. Um, I believe it was this one like video for it was like a community park or something that maybe it was with Motley Futures. I don't totally remember. But it was seeing all of your favorite athletes in all of UW's different sports, just going out to
mm,
this park and playing like what is it called, kickball, and like those kind of fun like little recess games. And that was an advertisement for the park, and they were able to use their platform as an athlete to give exposure to these community parks. It's just in a video form. Like it was just so cool to see.
Yeah. No, that's I remember seeing the advert, and Roma Dunze was obviously one of them.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah,
let's go.
Odunze, Braylon Trice, Keon Brooks. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So what's the sort of process to getting these sort of marketing and media that you want to eventually get into?
I think that's a question I'm also trying to figure out. Um, yeah, I think the video podcast that I'm wanting to start will be kind of a good stepping stone into that, into kind of creating even like my own brand, and with my roommate Smaya, shout out. Because we've always kind of talked about how we want to kind of make a name for ourselves. For the longest time, I thought I wanted to be a sideline reporter uh,
Mm,
for the NFL and kind of be like Aaron Andrews or Pam Oliver. That was my dream the last kind of 4 years or so since football. But I'm not, I would still love to pursue that. And I think that would be a great space to kind of put myself in. I'm just, it's a far trajectory to get there. So, I'm trying to figure out where I stand.
yeah.
I do love taking photos at every game. I have this
Mm,
little like Fujifilm camera that I bring with me to every game, and I'm just kind of like a little paparazzi trying to like kind of establish my own portfolio in a way, just because I'm kind of taking being in those
mm,
privileged spaces as a marketing intern or as a Kraken employee, and able to kind of build my own portfolio that way, because I feel like I should be able to kind of exploit that space as I'm using my
mm,
passion for photography, um, while I'm at work and experiencing something cool. So
yeah. Have you made like an Instagram page for those Fuji films?
I should. I usually just post them on my personal Instagram, and I have a little highlight called Fujifilm that I'll usually put them in after.
Nice.
It's been super fun.
Um,
Yeah.
what's the best part about like sort of taking around that camera and being in those areas?
I just love capturing, it kind of goes back to like uh, the podcast. I want to see athletes kind of outside of their sport, or that kind of behind the scenes look. So
Mm,
even if I am taking photos on game day, it's predominantly when that they aren't suited up yet, and they're coming down to the stadium and doing like their dog walk, which is a really special moment where they just arrive from the hotel in their bus, and they walk the field all linking arms together, and everyone's dead silent and just kind of watching and experiencing this moment. And that's when I want to take my camera out, because I'm like, this is just such like a raw moment for UW
mm,
football, and I'm there and able to capture it. Or another example is like when they're coming into the tunnel. That's another space where they're not being seen by thousands of fans. They've just left the field, and just kind of being able to capture their emotions in that moment is, I think, just something super cool.
yeah. So what's the best like kind of experience that you've had in these moments where you get to see like the raw side of the athletes?
I think it just brings me back to my own football days and getting to see the emotions of a player, of an athlete. Kind of, even with the dog walk, they're arriving, they've got the headphones on, the music's blasting, you can tell they're just so locked into the game they're about to play. And it's just I can resonate with that as a former athlete. So it's yeah, just another side to see. It's really cool to witness.
Yeah. What's the best interaction that you've had with an athlete during your roles?
Oh gosh, nothing too crazy. It's always just I've befriended a couple of them now, so it's just like good good job out there. Like good luck.
Go get them.
Yeah, go get them. Do your thing. Do your thing. Yeah, nothing. I mean, I'm lucky that they're all very sweet. but we've both got our jobs to do, so we're
Yeah.
both kind of locked into our own spaces.
No, that's sick. I mean, with the NIL stuff, I think that's a really good thing as well because a lot of these high performing athletes, like they kind of struggle to find that identity afterwards, which I think the NIL is such a cool program. So they've at least got a starting line for what they can do afterwards.
Right.
We're back again. I do think it's my fault, um, but we're having some technical difficulties. We are back. Off camera, we were speaking about again the NIL and how big of a impact that is for sort of this new wave of athletes. And we were sort of talking about my career where it ended because of a shoulder injury, and then I was sort of left like, what do I do now? Like my career's done. Um, my doctors told me I can't play anymore. So what do I do now? And we sort of touched on the NIL things, and you were mentioning how important that can be. Could you just say what you were saying?
Yeah, I was saying how I watched one of the podcasts that our quarterback Mike Penix went on, who, I mean, if someone's had some scary injuries, it's him. You know, he had a career at Indiana where he couldn't go a year without a serious injury, and he was kind of talking through how poor of a mental space that can put you in, which is like completely understandable. I think anyone would feel that way. Um, and just kind of as an athlete, say you have a season ending injury, where does that put you? You've devoted your whole life and career, and depending on how serious the injury is, you're thinking towards the future of what that could mean for you.
Mm,
And if even want to pursue in that sport anymore, even like further jeopardize your body in that way, especially with football. And it just goes back to how important having your own brand as an athlete can be, and have something to fall back on if I'm gonna knock on wood again. If anything were to happen to you in a game or practice or anything.
yeah. What's some of what's some advice that you would give someone trying to build up that brand of themselves?
I think it's just really important to go back to being your most true authentic self and what kind of makes you you. I think a lot of that for an athlete can be kind of how they grew up and the different cultures of teams that they played on. Going back to just kind of what morals stick with them the most. In one of my classes, one of our basketball players was talking about how interested he is in the philanthropy side of things, and how he really wants to get involved in nonprofits as part of his branding.
Mm,
Which I think that's a really great way, and that resonates with so many people. So thinking, what are your hobbies and interests outside of your sport? What do you find yourself doing if it's not football or basketball or soccer or whatever it is?
yeah. In terms of like how would you go about building that name brand and sort of surround yourself with the right sort of people and steps to go through it with it?
Good question. I think a lot of it nowadays would be through social media. I think it's finding really creative, videographers or photographers that can kind of help you build your brand. Just in the way that different media creators are wanting to create a portfolio of their own. It benefits both parties if an
Mm,
athlete is trying to get content and someone's trying to build a portfolio. So I think that's a really good way. Um, I know one story with his name is Nico, and he used to be on our UW media team. He, I believe, DM'd DK Metcalf and just offered to kind of shoot for him. So it's, it benefits DK Metcalf. He gets
hmm.
cool content out of it. And Nico got a great, addition to his portfolio. And then now they have this complete relationship where Nico, travels with him and shoots. He's like his private photographer. So I think that's just another cool story of it really just benefits both parties to, reach out and seek out those different resources that, social media can bring to you.
Yeah. How would you approach sort of reaching out to people?
I would find people on social media that I'm really impressed with their work and I think it stands out. And, it's not like a classic Canva template. They have like their actual own brand and image in their work. Um, there's one creator who I don't know his name, but he makes these dope videos for a lot of our athletes. He just posted one for Corin Johnson, but Samaya and I, my roommate, we've talked about him. Um, Let me find it because I would love to shout him out. He's he's really great.
Is it on Instagram?
Yes, his name is Luke Abad, um, Lukeabad, and even I do not know this guy personally. I just love the content that he makes. But his bio is art and sports, and when you watch his videos, it is like a movie, and he does a great job at prioritizing the brand of an athlete. I mean, it is in the realm of their sports. Yeah, 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 that's him. Um, yeah, he's just, you can tell everything is so perfectly curated.
Nice.
Adidas basketball commenting on there. So he's made a really great name
Oh
for
yeah,
himself. Yeah.
that's dope.
So if I were an athlete, he's who I would. I do not know this guy personally, but I just am in awe of his work. So
Yeah, I think it's as well as like you have to appreciate what everyone else is doing as well around like what your industry is. Like for me, I'll watch some coaches and some like I'll just watch people on YouTube and like how they put content together for like their program, and I'm just
mhm.
like, that's one of the biggest things for me is like I'm also not shy, so like I will just cold DM people like
Yeah,
this podcast is happening because I saw your work with sort of the Krakens, the UW, and
yeah,
I reached out to you on LinkedIn and I was like, hey, do you want to talk about like the media side and like the advertising side of things? Because like I said at the beginning of the podcast, like before we started recording, is like I don't see like everyone being like on a hierarchy thing. Like obviously there's people that are like have different roles, but I see as like everything plays into a part on this whole experience. And I think media is and like the production of things is the best way for like athletes getting that sorry the fans to get experiences on what we're
yes,
going through and like
totally.
what we do as like a coaching staff or as a athlete side of things.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's one of the biggest benefits to media is it kind of lets a fan into the behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I think with what you're sort of saying is like you relate so much because although you're an athlete and you've played at a high level, but you loved watching sports growing up. So like
Mhm.
that to you is what you're bringing forward.
Right. Totally. And I can appreciate other people's media and it just inspires me so much more to create my own and, help other athletes build their brands.
Yeah. What would be some of your advice to people that are wanting to sort of make it in the media side and sort of the advertising side of sport?
I think you really have to focus on making good first impressions and good connections. I've learned through, my work in getting, or because my UW boss got me essentially connected with my bosses at the Kraken. So sports is, you want great relationships if you want to work in sports. That's really what's going to get you good opportunities. I've learned that time and time again now. It just continues to prove itself.
Yeah. For people that are like maybe a bit younger and can't reach out to like these people, what are some things that they can do at home to sort of build up their sort of portfolio, like you've mentioned?
I think if it's in media, something I really regret not doing is just creating content when I was in high school. I had like a bit of a short-lived TikTok career post post high school grad about football, which was fun. But I look back on, I want to see my football memories, and I just wish there was more content I could have created. For someone that's wanting to go into media, you have access to sports teams and you have access to events like that, and more often than not, people are more than willing to let you in and just let your camera on through and let you do your thing, and that's just how you can create a portfolio to bring to a job one day. So
Yeah. In terms of like viewer experience, what would you recommend? Sort of how would people get about doing that?
hmm. I think if it's collegiately, I think most colleges have some kind of marketing intern program like the one UW does. And if not, it doesn't hurt to ask where you can kind of find a space where that would be. There's so many different elements that go into a game day, and so more often than not, they're just going to want more help.
Mm.
I'm an unpaid intern right now. I'm volunteering my time to do this, so I don't really know what other place is gonna, deny free help. So might as well ask always.
Yeah, it's also not being scared to like do unpaid work as well. I
Totally.
think
Yeah.
like as an S&C coach, your first kind of like 2 3 years, maybe four, like that's all unpaid,
Right.
and like you're just building up that resume of I've worked with this team, like this head coach has sort of helped me, and like my time at UW was free. Like I had to pay from to go from UK to across there to do it, but like I saw that as a big investment in my career because like
Totally.
it's just these little pockets of like did a D1 school, like I'm not going to get that experience here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. I owe UW athletics and marketing everything for getting me introduced to the sports industry. That was really where I started. Like I learned front to back how to produce like a soccer game, for example, my first kind of week in the internship and everything that goes into that. And yes, it's unpaid, but I wouldn't have it any other way because it introduced me to connections and experiences that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So
Yeah, the connections is a big part of it as well because like I've mentioned this to you before, but like most of the people on this podcast or people that I've filmed with have
mhm.
all been in some way, shape, or form connections that I've had from UW,
Right.
and like that's like it's such a tight network as well. Like if you see someone like on LinkedIn, they've got that dub up, you're just like
Totally. Yeah.
my guy.
Yep. That's so true. Yeah, it never really hurts to ask. And people are often more than willing to help you because they've gone through that same experience also working in the sports industry. So,
100%. I think that like I had Kev on yesterday. He's a recruiter for the UW football team, and
mhm.
he's an S&C coach. He coached at the Arizona Cardinals. Like he's done quite a lot, but that was his first podcast, and he was like, "I appreciate you for doing this." I was like, "I'm just speaking to people who I like to speak to, and like we're
Mhm.
just like reconnecting on the experiences that we shared at UW." And like for me, it's just like it's sick to see how people are progressing.
Totally. Yeah.
No, that's sick. Do you want to plug anything that you've got coming up or that you want to do?
I guess stay tuned with my personal social media because that's probably where you'll see where I'll launch our podcast. So stay tuned for that. We hope to have our first episode out in the next 3 weeks. That's the goal
Nice.
we're setting. We're finally setting deadlines. That's the dream. So
Nice. What
yeah,
would be so for anyone that's is this the one?
yep, that would be me at Layla TW, and you'll
So
probably see some fun little game day content on there as well. Me with
yeah.
my little Fuji film.
You should make a page for your Fuji.
I should. I should. You're right. I will after this.
No, but like with in terms of your podcast, like that's a solid idea as well because like athletes, a lot of athletes struggle afterwards, and I think sort of giving them that platform to be able to put themselves out there and it's like this is what I'm doing next. Come and hopefully follow me.
Right. Yeah. I just want to create a space where we can have a platform for them to come on honestly and just share their story and their brand.
Yeah. No. Thank you so much for coming on. I
Thank
appreciate
you
your
for
time.
having me. Of course.